Shocking death. That's what the headline said. But for Paul Orndorff, the truth was even darker. The man known as Mr. Wonderful had a life filled with pain, controversy, and secrets. And what really happened in his final days? It's time to face it all. In June 2021, just 1 month before his death, a heartbreaking video surfaced. Paul Orndorff's own son shared footage of his father looking unrecognizable and confused. The once powerful wrestler who dominated the ring was now lost in his own mind. Fans around the world were devastated. This wasn't how they wanted to remember their hero. But this tragic end didn't happen overnight. It was the result of decades of punishment that began long before Orndorff ever stepped into a wrestling ring. Paul Parlett. Orndorff Jr. was born a natural athlete. At the University of Tampa, he was a standout fullback who would later be inducted into their Athletic Hall of Fame. His talent was so impressive that the New Orleans Saints drafted him in 1973. He also had stints with the Chicago Bears training camps and played for the Jacksonville Express in the World Football League. But his football dreams were cut short by injury in 1975. Many would see this as a setback. For Orndorff, it was just the beginning of a lifetime of physical trauma. In 1976, he made the switch to professional wrestling. Trained by the legendary Hiro Matsuda, Orndorff quickly adopted the persona that would make him famous. Mr. Wonderful. The name fit perfectly. He was confident, arrogant, and physically imposing. Everything a wrestling heel should be. His rise was meteoric. By 1985, he was main eventing the very first WrestleMania, teaming with Rowdy Roddy Piper against Hulk Hogan and Mr. T, but it was his subsequent feud with Hogan that truly made him a superstar. This rivalry became one of the most memorable and profitable in wrestling history. It defined an era and cemented Orndorff's place among the top stars. Fans loved to hate him. His intensity and charisma were undeniable. He had everything needed to be a wrestling legend. But while the crowd saw a superstar, inside his body was already beginning to break. Professional wrestling is brutal. The high-impact moves, the grueling schedule, the constant physical punishment, it all takes a toll. For Orndorff, that toll was severe. He would later reveal the shocking extent of his injuries. "I've broken my neck 3 different times. 3 broken necks." Let that sink in. That's the kind of trauma that ends careers, that changes lives forever. But Orndorff kept going. In the mid-1980s, he suffered a severe spinal cord injury that significantly hampered his career. He also sustained nerve damage to his arm and neck. This damage was so severe that it eventually led to the atrophy of his right bicep. Perhaps the most telling moment came during his lucrative feud with Hulk Hogan. Orndorff suffered a serious arm injury in a weightlifting accident. Any reasonable person would have taken time off for proper surgery. But Orndorff made a different choice. He continued wrestling, refusing to miss the peak period of his career. This decision would haunt him for the rest of his life. The injury was exacerbated, contributing to his long-term physical decline. It was a choice that perfectly illustrated the wrestling culture of the time. Push through the pain, no matter the cost. The damage forced Orndorff into his first retirement from full-time wrestling in 1988. He attempted a comeback in 1989, but the issues with the right side of his body continued. By 1995, he had to step away from a full-time schedule again. His final retirement came in 2000, specifically attributed to arm atrophy from that nagging injury. Orndorff himself later reflected on this sacrifice. "I'm paying for my rough and tough days. You'll pay down the road." These words were prophetic. They also highlighted a disturbing truth about professional wrestling. The long-term consequences were rarely discussed or prepared for. But the physical injuries were just the beginning. In 2011, Orndorff faced another battle when he was diagnosed with cancer. Fortunately, he announced its remission 7 months later. It seemed like he had overcome another challenge. Yet what hit hardest wasn't something you could see. It was what was happening in his mind. By 2021, Orndorff's mental state had severely deteriorated. In May of that year, he was moved to a medical care center in Fayetteville, Georgia. The reason? Dementia caused by chronic traumatic encephalopathy, or CTE. CTE is a degenerative brain disease associated with repetitive head trauma. For someone who had broken his neck 3 times, and endured countless impacts in the ring, this diagnosis wasn't surprising, it was inevitable. His son Travis publicly stated his belief that his father's dementia was a direct result of CTE. This wasn't speculation. This was a family dealing with the harsh reality of a wrestling career's consequences. The video Travis shared in June 2021 showed the devastating effects. The man who once commanded crowds with his presence was now confused and unrecognizable. For fans who remembered Mr. Wonderful in his prime, it was heartbreaking. But there was more to the story. Travis made disturbing claims that his father had been verbally, emotionally, and physically abused by his caregivers. He explained that he shared the painful video to raise awareness and help remove his father from that abusive situation. The contrast was stark. The powerful, invincible Mr. Wonderful had become vulnerable and dependent. Even worse, those entrusted with his care were allegedly exploiting that vulnerability. Financial struggles added another layer of tragedy. Orndorff was facing difficulties with property taxes and medical bills. A man who had helped build wrestling's golden era was now struggling to pay his basic expenses. Travis launched a GoFundMe campaign to help cover these costs. The wrestling community responded, raising $10,000. It was touching to see fans support their former hero, but it also raised uncomfortable questions. Why was a wrestling legend relying on charity in his final years? And the most damning detail, Paul had tried to hold wrestling accountable. In 2016, Orndorff joined a class action lawsuit against WWE. The lawsuit made serious allegations, but WWE had failed to protect its performers from concussions and other neurological injuries. The company had misclassified wrestlers as independent contractors. There were claims of reckless endangerment and issues with the talent wellness program. These weren't minor complaints. These were fundamental accusations about how the company treated its performers. The lawsuit represented years of frustration from wrestlers who felt abandoned after their peak years. But in 2018, the lawsuit was dismissed. Despite the severity of the claims, despite the mounting evidence of long-term health issues among wrestlers, the legal system provided no relief. For Orndorff, this dismissal was particularly bitter. Here was a man whose dementia was linked to CTE, whose career had left him broken and struggling, and yet there was no acknowledgement of responsibility from the industry that had profited from his sacrifice. The dismissal highlighted the challenges wrestlers face in seeking recognition or compensation for career-related health issues. Even with strong beliefs about the causes of their decline, the legal hurdles proved insurmountable. This outcome reflected a broader issue in contact sports, the struggle to formally recognize and compensate for long-term neurological damage as an occupational hazard. Orndorff's case was just one example of a system that seemed designed to protect organizations rather than the athletes who made them successful. On July 12, 2021, Paul Orndorff passed away at the age of 71. The official cause of death was dementia, directly linked by his family to CTE from his wrestling career. But in death, he was finally remembered with the respect he deserved. The professional wrestling community united in tribute. Hulk Hogan, his legendary rival, tweeted, "Just got slammed with the Paul Orndorff news. RIP my brother. Love you and thank you for always making me fight for everything in our matches. Heaven just got even more wonderful." WWE issued an official statement acknowledging their Hall of Famer's passing and extending condolences to his family. Other wrestling legends like Triple H, Jim Ross, Ted DiBiase, CM Punk, Eric Bischoff, Gail Kim Irvine, and Kane shared their respects. Bue recognized Orndorff's awe-inspiring in-ring style and unmatched swagger, crediting him with creating a prototype for the modern-day superstar. He had been inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame in 2005, a testament to his lasting impact. Perhaps the most poignant tribute came from his son Travis. Most of you will remember him for his physique. Many will remember his intensity. But if I could only get you to understand and see his heart, and as much as many of you hated him as a wrestler, he absolutely loved you for it. This statement captured the complex relationship between a wrestler and their audience. Fans loved to hate Mr. Wonderful, and he loved them right back for it. His ability to make people feel something real in the ring ensured his place in wrestling history. But Orndorff's story is more than just a wrestling legacy. It's a cautionary tale about the hidden costs of entertainment. His journey from football star to wrestling icon was marked by extraordinary physical sacrifice. Multiple broken necks, spinal cord damage, nerve atrophy, cancer, and ultimately dementia. The price of his career was devastating. His final years exposed uncomfortable truths about how the wrestling industry treats its veterans. The alleged abuse, the financial struggles, the dismissed lawsuit. These details paint a picture of an industry that profits from its performers, but abandons them when they're no longer useful. The need for fan-funded support in his final years highlighted the systemic failures. Here was a man who had helped build wrestling's most successful era, yet he relied on charity to meet his basic needs. Paul Orndorff's death serves as a powerful reminder of wrestling's darkest truth, the human cost of our entertainment. His life was full of drama and greatness, but his ending exposed how the industry failed its biggest stars when they needed support the most. Thanks for watching. If you want more untold stories from wrestling's golden era, like and subscribe, and drop a comment. What do you think wrestling owes its legends?